Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live with Lisa on YouTube. I'm Lisa Nickerson, here to introduce you to fabulous people live. Live meaning you can chat with them, you can ask questions. These are people making a difference in the world every day. And every day we're here Monday, Friday. So take a lunch break with us, 12:15 Eastern. And you like what you're hearing on the show, be sure to press the like on the show. That way other people will be notified that this is something to watch. Also, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted when we post newly confirmed guests. Browse the confirmed guests and set the reminder for who's coming on live. Today, we're excited to welcome Mike Riley. You may know him as Sarge. He's the voice behind Boston sports for over 20 years. You may have heard Mike on WEEI Sports Radio, ESPN Boston, 95, The Sports Hub, Gillette Stadium as the public address announcer. Mike's here today to talk about what it takes to be a great broadcaster, but also with the state of affairs affecting sports and talking sports, what's going on and how does it affect everything behind the mic? To put a face to the voice, here's Mike Riley.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Thanks for having me with you here today. Really appreciate it. And it's a good day to be with you here. Every day is a good day, Lisa.
Well, we really appreciate your being on. You know, as we were introducing you, and we had coincidentally had another Sarge on our show a few weeks ago. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
I'd love to know where you got your nickname, Sarge.
Yeah, so I've been at the Sports Hub since 2014, and the first time I worked with the afternoon show, Felger and Maz, Mike Felger and Tony Maserati, I was in the back prep room before the show with Tony Maserati and the other co-host that day. Mike was out, so that's why I slid in to do it was a third man in as the update. So I introduced myself to Tony, said, "Hey, Tony, Mike Riley, nice to meet you." We were talking for about 5 minutes. Didn't think anything about it. Go on the air about a half hour later, and Maz goes, "And over here on the update chair today, we have Mike Riley." I got to tell you, Riley came in before the start of the show. He asked how I was doing about 40 times. He shook my hand about 50 times. I've determined he's very polite, very well-mannered, very disciplined. So he's our Sergeant-at-Arms, Sergeant Mike Riley. So the other guy who was there that day just blurted out Sarge, and it just took off. And they've called me that since. So you know what? It's you know the old saying, Lisa, you can never give yourself a nickname. You have to earn it or be given one. And you just ride the hot hand. That's all you can do, right? Brand it.
Those are the best stories.
There you go. Pretty cool, huh?
So we appreciate you being on. So the goal of this week had been to be all about sports. We were psyched to talk about what is going on with sports. So let's start there.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the stadium.
Yeah.
I want to go to a game.
I think we all do. And you know what, Lisa? It sounds like of the big five, and I'll include Major League Soccer in there because, you know, revolution. That's how we are.
Sure.
You know, Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL. But all of those, with the exception of the NFL, are the ones that are affected right now because that's when the season would be happening.
Right.
Obviously, when the pandemic hit in mid-March, NHL and NBA just had a handful of games left with the playoffs on the horizon. Major League Soccer, we just had one home match at Gillette Stadium for the Revolution, kind of just getting underway. And Major League Baseball was just a couple of weeks away, too.
Yep.
Certainly, everything happens and all that. Now, the good news is that, obviously, we're one day closer. That's the good news on anything. The bad news is that we don't know if the players' unions and ownerships will have an agreement anytime soon. But
I'm so glad you brought that up. Go ahead.
Yeah, what we do know, what it sounds like, and from what my sources say, the NBA and the NHL are very close. And I would not be shocked as well if Major League Soccer may have an announcement this week as well. Major League Baseball, I don't think so. But in the end, Lisa, I think the NFL is going to come out of this like the one smelling like a rose because they're not affected by it right now. They had tremendous numbers on the NFL draft, people staying home for that. And, you know, again, listen, I don't have no crystal ball in front of me, but we could have a vaccine here by the fall. And boom, that'll do what I'm just. That's
the earliest I've heard, but that would be great. I mean,
in a hypothetical situation. Okay. So if that's the case, then the NFL could have full stadiums again. And there you go. You could get back to the stadium, Lisa, as a fan, and just like everyone else. But in the meantime, if that's not the case, you may see the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and Major League Soccer play in front of empty arenas or play in a neutral site.
So does that mean that you're still there announcing, like, right? Because you're actually probably even more important because you're sharing with the world what's happening?
Yeah, well, yeah. So as a public address announcer, you're not a broadcaster, you're a public address. And that is when so if you were at a Patriots game last year, which I believe you went to a few, right? Yeah, you were at a few of them. So you heard me on the last 6 home games where I did the introduction for the national anthem and all those things like that. Major League Soccer for the Revolution, same deal. You're kind of like the master of ceremonies for the crowd, okay? Without a crowd, I guess so in a way, because there's an empty stadium and the players are not going to have that little extra adrenaline from the fans to buzz off of. So I'm not saying I'm going to be your top guy to be in your ear and in your face like a coach, like, hey, let's go. But maybe it's a little boost of energy as a PA announcer to have that, especially in front of no crowd. So long story short, if they're at Gillette Stadium, yes, but I don't know if it'll be allowed because everything is state by state right now with crowd gatherings, and even if they're, permitted to play like that. So we'll see what happens. Time will tell.
I heard this morning on the news, baseball, the unions, the owners, they're really not coming together. Yep. And I'd heard that there was an agreement in March and now there's not.
Yep.
What is that all about? Because it's baseball time. Right.
It's baseball time. We should be, the All-Star break is always right after the 4th of July. And what is it, June 2nd? So we have, a month away would be like kind of close to the halfway point for baseball. And and essentially what it is, Lisa, it's the millionaires versus the billionaires. And in this case, the owners being the billionaires, they're the ones that are getting the short end of the stick on this one. Typically, it's the other way around. But they've lost so much revenue with, home crowds. Look at Fenway Park. Just a perfect example, Fenway Park. With this pandemic here, how small it is, you can't have games there. You just can't until there's a vaccine. It's just not going to happen. They have lost, I don't know the exact number, but just think of how much money goes into it every night. Beer stands, ticket sales, souvenirs, insane. And what it's turned into right now is kind of like the 1994 strike, where the players walked, I think it was August 10th, and they said, see you later. And they canceled the World Series not too long after that. Very sad for baseball. It's very similar to that, very reminiscent of that. But it's not looking good right now. They've made some offers here and there. And right now, it's not all indications of that they're going to get 100 games in. If they are to get any games in, Lisa, you're probably looking at 84 the most.
Right.
And I think the initial goal was to start on the 4th of July because, I consider, I consider baseball America's former pastime. Not anymore. Football is. But that would be the perfect scenario right there to have started on the 4th of July. And I think that might be out the window. But we'll see. If they can come to an 11th hour agreement, it could happen. But these players got to get back into training and, and testing and so forth. So you can't just snap your finger and have it happen like Mary Poppins there. Things it takes time. So we'll see what happens.
Let's circle back to football then for a second, because this was a big anticipated year for the Patriots. And just wonder what your thoughts are there about the season. Is there any chance there won't be a season?
There's definitely a chance there won't be. There's no hiding behind that. I will say this, though, Lisa. Say what you want about Roger Goodell. I know everyone here in New England, the NFL commissioner has always, and they've had, he's had a negative thing with the fans and so forth because of Deflategate and all the Spygate, all that stuff. However, though, I will say this. I got to give him credit where credit's due. He said time over time with this pandemic here that our goal is to play, an entire NFL season in front of a live crowd. And he hasn't said that we're going to cancel anything yet. He hasn't looked ahead. And what his message is, we'll weather the storm as it comes. Now, sure, you have to plan ahead a little bit. But again, back to what I was saying, the NFL is going to come out of this smelling like a rose because they kind of have the blueprint already with the NBA, the NHL, and Major League Baseball, see what they're doing, and they can work everything out to see how it all does come to fruition. But maybe you have half the stadium filled. Maybe you play in states that allow it. I know Arizona is open to it. Florida right now. I believe maybe Texas too. Things could change in 3 months.
I think California said nothing in the fall, right? Don't they say that there would be no events?
Yeah, I think
California.
Yeah, California's been very. They've really put a stranglehold on this thing. Really to get it down and to containment. And the numbers have worked there for California. It's been pretty good. And yes, they've said to the end of the year. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all works out. And California is like 2 states in one, maybe 4 states in one. It's huge. So.
Well, I guess part of me is thinking, there's a handful of us who are season ticket holders, and they're counting on that revenue, right? They want those bills paid, and so you've got a lot of people holding out on paying their annual ticket dues too. Then that's a lot of revenue. There's no triple Ps that cover that. So I know part of me feels like they're holding out a long period of time because they want to make sure that people are holding on to their seats. But I don't know, maybe that's the pessimist in me. So
yeah, I mean, here's my thing, Lisa. I think that, it's June 2nd in the NFL right now. We're supposed to have mini camps later this month.
Right.
Which, I know you're aware of that. After the draft, you had the rookie camp and or the what do you call it? The team. Oh, why am I blanking on the darn thing? The team gatherings there. Tom Brady didn't go to. But long story short, mini camp this June. That's probably not going to happen. The coaches are not able to communicate with the individuals in the flesh. They're doing it over Zoom, and it's different. It's not the same thing to keep motivated. I'm going to say by July 1, if we don't have a message from the NFL by July 1, it's going to be a little shaky. So they're working around the clock to figure something out, because I think, Lisa, I think you're in agreement too that the country needs football. We need this back.
Yes.
Not just for the season, but it could be a beacon of hope. And in the end, Super Bowl Sunday, that's the biggest day of the year in sports. That could be a national holiday. So that could be the real beacon of hope for everyone to get to the top of the mountain there to the Super Bowl, and for the NFL to be back to reality. I think that would be a perfect scenario, and it would be great for everyone's morale.
One more question on football.
Yeah,
if football does not play, what's it mean for Brady?
I know that's a great question, because you can't stop the clock. You just can't do it on that. Brady's got, I think he'll have one more year after that, but he's made it very clear that he wants to play at least 45, and here he will. He'll be 43. So I think that at least one more year, and that'll probably be it, even if they don't play. Right. But I still think the NFL will be in action by September.
So how do you get the job that you've got?
Well, on the radio side or the public address, which one? Because I got a couple, if you think of it.
Start with the radio side.
Radio, sure. So, Lisa, I've always wanted to. At a time, I grew up in Needham and Boston area. For those that aren't familiar with that, and it was kind of at a time where the Celtics post Larry Bird era, the Bruins were they were okay. Patriots Bledsoe era during the Parcells regime. Red Sox just kept chasing and breaking your heart every year. So really always had that passion every year as a fan. Revolution were just starting in '94. Right. So right around that time there, always enjoyed watching it and always knew I wanted to have something to do with it. I always tell the story that while my friends were, and if I were off to the side with them, if we were playing street hockey or pick up basketball in the backyard, they'd be shooting around and I'd be doing the commentating. Right. I'd be like, oh, here's Lisa over here making the pass, and Lisa's shot, score, stuff like that. And they were like, do it again. It was great. And I'm like, all right, this is awesome. And so also,
just for all that are watching that know that I'm 5'2", there's never been a Lisa shot and scored ever. But that was cute. That was cute.
and you didn't pay me to say that either. Let's make that clear, right? So, No, it's just, and also, Lisa, I've been a big pro wrestling fan for a long time.
Yeah.
And I loved I was always inspired by the ring announcers.
Yeah.
Coming down the aisle from Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm like, I always did that for them. So really practicing that, studying that for such a long time. And going through hurdles to get to a position of being on the air in your hometown. Boston being a solid media market,
Right.
it's a hard thing to do. And I've seen people that have come through here, they've gone to other parts of the country where, there's like nothing going on. You're really kind of, say you're in Iowa, maybe you're covering the Chicago teams. It's the closest one there. So just an example like that.
Right.
So thankfully I've been very lucky here to do that and stay here my whole career. So hard work, you got to have that drive. You really got to be passionate about it. If you're not passionate about it, then get out now.
Right.
Be ready to work some weird hours. Be ready to work some holidays. Be ready to work some weekends. I mean, sports calendar. Look at the NFL. It's on Sundays. The NBA, they play on Christmas Day.
Right.
There's some strange times in sports, but it's how it is. So you
have to be an expert. You have to be an expert at what you do, right? So it's not about even when you're on. It's everything you're doing when you're off. It's like an athlete. You're always conditioning.
I appreciate that word, expert. I appreciate that. I'm far from that, but you got to at least pretend to know what you're talking about.
Sure.
And here's the other thing too, Lisa. In radio, what I tell people all the time, especially radio, sports radio, you have to have an opinion. And you know what? You might not be right, but at least you have an opinion. And you know what? Even if you're wrong, just own it. Just own it. Yeah, okay. You can't take yourself so serious all the time, too. Sports radio, it's just so easy for people to interact with you.
Sure.
You're kind of, it's not like a politician where you're opening up your life records and so forth, but people get to know you. You're kind of like a voice of trust and a voice of a friend, I guess, for people that are just, maybe a great day like today. You may have a landscaper outside that's listening to sports radio and you kind of become their friend. You could be in jail. You're listening to sports radio and you become the inmate's friend, and they can communicate with you. It's so easy to communicate with you via social media now, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff.
Well, it's a lot of work. I was trained for radio with Terry Trespicio, who's been on our show a couple times, helping people learn to use video to their advantage during this time. And I remember Terry would be the person calling in, right? And just and learning the opinion, to have the opinion, to manage the question, to keep the conversation going. And it's hard. And she'd make me practice on Skype, and I'd have to go back and watch myself. And I got to give you a lot of credit, because to be fresh and on all that time and live, it's a lot of work. So there's definitely a conditioning that goes with that.
Well,
my mom always said, don't get ready, be ready.
Yeah.
So was there ever a time where an opportunity came to you that you maybe didn't expect, but because you were ready and you were on point, you were able to take something on?
Yeah, definitely two that I can think of off the top of my head for the radio side. When I was at WEEI back in 2013 in that time frame, I was just doing the updates as a third man in for the morning show, Dennis and Callahan, the morning show there. And excuse me, the updates. And I remember it was I think it was a Friday morning, right after I just got off the air. And I got a text message from the program director. They said, "Hey, Mike, could you, I'm sorry, it was a Saturday morning. And they said, could you jump in on the air this afternoon to host?" And I'm like, butterflies in my stomach and then a nervous wreck. But I'm like, yes. So you just jump right. I changed my plans. I think I was supposed to, I don't know if I had a date or something, whatever. But I didn't have a date, I can tell you that. But I definitely had plans with someone. I just changed it all right there. That was it. I'm like, I gotta go. I'm sorry. And just, like you said, with the prep work, you always have to have that extra stuff there. You may not get to it, but you have it in there. You have all the preparation down. I mean, when I host a show or a podcast, I do a weekly wrestling podcast on the Sports Hub as well, Lisa. On average, I have about 10 to 15 pages of notes every week. Right. I may not get to all of it, but it's right there, ready to go.
Sure.
The recycle bin loves me after that. So you have to have that preparation. That's one thing right there. Then the other one I could think of for the PA was this past year when the Patriots were getting ready to host the Cleveland Browns. It was late October. And the Thursday before, I got a text message from the executive producer at Kraft Sports Entertainment. And I had done a couple of Revolution games the last year, summer 2019. They said, "Hey, Mike, our promotional PA announcer, Rob, is in the hospital. Could you jump in and do the promotional PA for us on Sunday?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, hell yeah." So jumped in there and they're like, "Great, we'll mail you a parking pass tomorrow, FedEx it, you'll have it tomorrow. Just be here." I think it was a 4:00 game. If you could be here by 1, that'd be great. No problem. I'll see you then. Didn't even ask how much it would be to get paid. I would have done it for free. And they, out of respect, they did ask after, and they gave me the rate, and I'm like, "Oh man, it's a dream job, something I've always wanted to do, and love it." Things like that, Lisa, don't come up much often, and when it does, you got to jump on it.
You have to say yes. You got to move everything around.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the circumstances. Rob, who was in the hospital, did pass away, so I filled in the last 6 games for the Patriots that year too. So it's just right place, right time, but obviously, just that situation there. So. Yeah. Now,
the flip side of that, and we laugh about this at my office because you can't even believe the behind the scenes things that can happen with our YouTube show, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be something big that's gone wrong that maybe people knew about, maybe you covered it. I'd love a fun behind the scenes blooper.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can give you one, the top one I can think of off the top of my head. This past year with the Patriots, I was doing the Dallas game, and it was a cold, rainy day. You were there, right? Weren't you there for that? Yeah. So, that was just
like the abominable snowman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was just nasty day, and that was supposed to be like Dallas only comes here once every 8 years in the current NFL format. So it was a big day for ticket holders, and they were trying to give them away left and right. Couldn't do it. It was tough. But right before, heavy rain, and I think there was some lightning too, and the scoreboard at Gillette got struck by lightning where the power went out on it, on the scoreboard. And everyone was in a panic because we were, I think we were like 10 minutes away from kickoff. So it was like, oh no. And you probably wouldn't even know being in the crowd, but I don't know. What's that? What is that?
I was getting my beer.
Good job, Lisa. But if you were, then good for you. But it was just everyone was in a panic, and you can't stop time because it's television and ready to go for kickoff, and that's it. So finally, it came on like midway through the first quarter. I think people started to notice a little bit without seeing the reactions of Brady and Belichick on the sideline with the national anthem and all that. I think people caught on with the black screen and nothing happening there. So it was kind of interesting, but it was a panic mode up in the control room for a few minutes, and you just got to be calm rather, and keep everyone under control. Yeah.
The magicians in the IT get it all worked out.
That's it. Right? That's it. Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't mind, Lisa, can I just answer someone's question here in the chat? If you don't mind?
Sure.
They said, so is there no NBA champion or NHL Stanley Cup winner in 2020? We don't know that yet. We don't know because the season may come back. And if it does, they're going to go right to the playoffs. It sounds like NHL just came out with the playoff format, so they'd go right to that. And the NBA looks like they'll have a plan of attack this week. I just wanted to answer that real quick for that person, Rena. It's a good question.
We have one other question there. Kate asks, do you think this time off will change player performance at all when they get back on the field?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, it's funny because, well, not funny, but interesting, because the other night with the peaceful protests in Boston, right before the riots went down, I saw Marcus Smart of the Celtics. And he was part of the protests there right by the State House. He was also with his teammate Vincent Poirier and Enes Kanter. And all those guys have to be in tremendous shape. Jaylen Brown, actually, I saw him on television. He drove down to Atlanta for the protests too. And listen, I'm no Brad Pitt. I'm no athlete to say I'm in great shape like them. But you could tell a little bit, though, that they weren't 100% in condition shape, just a little. They've been off for 3 months. But, and they're not able to participate at the team facility. They weren't allowed to up until last week when Governor Baker signed off on that.
Right.
So you may see that, but that's why it's going to be so crucial for them to have at least like a 1 month period or a 3 or 4 week period to have off-season conditioning again before they put him back out there with the team and organized team activity for that.
Sure. So. And, as we start to wrap up here, we have to touch on, again, the protests and what's happening within sports in our country. How does this affect sports? And how does this affect how you talk about sports?
Yeah, that's a real life thing, Lisa. And it's just like when any tragedy hits, you have to talk about it. You just do. Boston Marathon bombing, we didn't talk sports. 9/11 didn't talk sports. It was all real life stuff. This is borderline that in a way. But I guess it's kind of out there. It's more common, especially to talk about it on sports radio because there are no sports happening. Right. But thankfully, it was a busy offseason, Tom Brady gone and, and free agency and so forth, doing the best we can and all that. But it's still important to talk about it because the NBA very open about the racial things and so forth. They're right at the forefront of it. The Boston Celtics they were the first guys, the first team to have 5 black players start. Bill Russell, first black coach, first one to draft a black player, all that stuff. So I think sports is going to take it at the forefront. All the leagues, with statements you'll see over the next 48 hours and everything. We stand with everyone. All lives matter. Black lives matter along those lines because when you look at that, they are role models, and we need a role model right now. And that's really important for society. And like I go back to that example, seeing Marcus Smart out there with that peaceful protest, I think that's really important when he's out there just walking and being with the crowd, just in a peaceful way. That's important for society to see that, look up to him.
A whole nother reason to bring sports back, to help people come together. And you're right. I think sports has such an opportunity, and the teams have such an opportunity to make a tremendous impact, as the heroes for so many people in this country. And again, there's so much that people are missing right now, whether it's being at work or being at games we need an opportunity to unite people again. And so hopefully sports will be able to do that. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with today that we need to be thinking about as we move forward and we open back up our country?
Yeah, it may sound so cliche, Lisa, but really, honestly, just be safe and please be healthy. That's the most important thing. If you don't feel good, just stay home. Seriously, stay home. If you don't feel good, don't go to the supermarket. Don't go to church now that it's back open again, or house of worship or anything along those lines. Sure. And be respectful to people too. Like, it's I think at the beginning of this pandemic, Lisa, people were being extra kind to one another. And obviously that kind of went south over the last couple of weeks a little bit. But let's all unite together here. Let's work together as a unit. And there's no need to be rude to someone. Always treat others the way you want to be treated.
Sure. Sarge, really appreciate you coming on today. This has been great. Thank you so much. I can't wait to keep in touch. And you're going to give me the inside scoop on what's happening with these teams because I am dying to go back.
Hey, Lisa, I can't wait to see you as a fan at Gillette Stadium this year. And I'm feeling good about it. We're going to be back. We'll be back. So keep the faith, right?
I'm keeping the faith. Thank you so much. And for everyone who's watching today, have you loved today's program? I know that I did. And I'm dying to keep track of what's happening with our players. And it is fun to know whether they're conditioning or not, because I don't know about you, but I am certainly not conditioning as much as I should be either. So always fun. Please like today's program if you've enjoyed that, so other people will see it. Please subscribe. And also remember of our campaign, put your money where your mouth is, WEAR. Watch for it on our social media. Live with Lisa Show on Instagram, Live with Lisa on Facebook. And I will let you know this jacket it's Sarah Campbell's. And we are always trying to promote women entrepreneurs. If you know somebody who's got a great line of clothing or jewelry, accessories, and we should showcase them on the show, please let us know. Put it in the comments below. Any messages, anybody that you think should be on the show, put it in the messages below. Thanks so much. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.